Hello, welcome to you all. We are having here Ms. Deeksha. She's serving as an officer in Delhi Police right now. She has cleared UPSC CSC 3 times. We are honored to have you, ma'am, here.
Thank
First of
you.
all, I would just like to give a quick brief about her. So she qualified first time in 2016. She was a student of Shabir sir then, if I'm not wrong, ma'am, right?
Yes, yes,
That was,
true.
yeah. So that was the first time she qualified. She got Indian Information Service. Then in 2017, she got DANIPS. And currently, she is serving in the Delhi Police. And the good news is in 2020, again, she has scored a 208 rank EIR. So we are expecting IPS cadre, ma'am.
Yes, thank you so much.
So, ma'am, you have been a geography optional student. So the theme today is to give students a general idea how they can go about with the geography optional and what should be the strategy and what are the mistakes they should avoid. So since you've cleared this exam not once but 3 times and with better ranks every time, so what according to you is the right way or right strategy? And also we would like for you to throw some light how you personally manage the things with your.
Right, right, right.
All right. So, ma'am, Yatish here is asking that, ma'am, what is our approach with the changing demand of UPSC in geography option?
Yes, yes, definitely. I'll take up this question after discussing broad idea about geography optional. We'll take up with
Yes.
the dynamic aspect of geography.
All right.
So I'll, like Karuna ma'am has already introduced me, and geography has been my optional for like all of my attempts. It was my fifth attempt and my third means, and luckily I have cleared it thrice with the geography optional. So the myth that geography optional is like broad or like it's very huge, it's difficult to cover it in the time frame or we score less in geography. So that's not the case. Geography optional has given me 3 ranks and 3 services in UPSC. So for me, geography optional we can say is lucky or whatever. Like if we put up efforts in the right direction, then definitely we can have better marks in the geography. The only trick which lies in geography optional is how we are covering up the syllabus, how we are reproducing it in the answer writing. That is one of the main domains which I would say in geography optional. So first thing is what are the things which we should keep in mind while we are choosing any optional. So one is that you should have a natural interest in geography. For example, you should have a natural passion about reading it in depth, proper analysis should be done, and that can only come when we are truly interested in any optional. So for choosing geography as an optional, we should be really inquisitive about geography. Then second is the book availability, that is quite good in geography. We have all the standard books of the syllabus of geography. So from that perspective, there is no problem in having geography optional. And also the teachers availability and the mentors availability is quite good. I have been a student of Shabir sir since all my attempts of geography and essay. So a good availability of good teachers and right in the right direction, the mentorship which is being provided by teachers, that also helps immense in improving our answer writing and also in improving the score every year. Then coming to the strategy, like since prelims is done and now we have 3.5 months to go for mains. So what is the strategy for geography optional which I adopted in my this mains while I was working as an ACP in West District of Delhi Police? So I used to have time management as the main key in geography because the syllabus of geography is huge. It's very diverse, and also with the addition of current affairs in paper 2 more so, it's becoming more dynamic. So how to actually muster the courage to cover that optional in the limited time frame, and along with that not only reading but also going about the answer writing process. So I'll just discuss my strategy about how I went to cover up geography optional first, and second how I did answer writing in geography optional. So covering up, I'll divide the whole discussion in two parts. One is paper 1 and another is paper 2. So if we look in the paper 1, it's again divided into two sections. One is uh, physical geography and the second section is human geography. So coming to the part of physical geography, I mainly focused on reading standard books. One, we may have all of us may have done some or other form of coaching. So one is that coaching material which teachers have taught us, our coaching notes. They are going to be with us throughout our journey. So just ensure that you make those notes very correct, very precise and accurate, and make synopsis out of them, because till now I have been revising 2016 notes. So they are always handy since we ourselves have written them. So they are always good to revise. Second, after having those coaching readings, we have to read standard books for having good score in geography optional. We cannot produce mechanical answers because lot many people are taking geography and the competition has increased like exponentially. So we need to go for reading standard books in geography. Coming to standard books, apart from basic NCERT readings, for physical geography, I read Savinder Singh, not the one which is of physical geography, but you should have, like, I read about geomorphology, specific Savinder Singh, climatology, specific Savinder Singh for climatology, and same for oceanography. I'm not saying read cover page to page everything. No, that's not humanly possible in the limited time frame we have, because we have to manage GS also. It's not that only optional will suffice, but specific topics. For example, like in geomorphology, slope development is one of the main topics. So for slope development, yes, one should read the chapter of slope analysis by Savinder Singh of geomorphology, because that deals in detail. These days questions are not only about, let's say, Pank or Davis. They are moving to Wood, Seviger, Stroller. They are moving to L.C. King. So for that, for those specific areas which require in-depth analysis, those they can be covered from specific books of Savinder Singh in geomorphology. Second, for example, climatology, we are reading in climatology. What we can do is we can read Savinder Singh basic book and also few editions by specifics. For example, if the question comes on, let's say, we can talk about frontogenesis. This year it came. So if we produce the same answers, the warm front, cold front, that will not fetch the answers. You need to have good diagrams in geography. And for those diagrams, you have to refer to specific books which have informative diagrams. For example, in my question, I wrote about Norwegian School of Climatology, which brought out this concept of fronts. So we have to bring out thinkers' name, we have to bring out those specific diagrams and the sources. For example, while I made the diagram for fronts, I quoted the name of the geographical thinker from where I have taken the diagram, that is Critchfield. So how we just do the value addition, that is going to come from those specific book readings which is required, and that is required for those major chunk of topics, like we can say for fronts, for monsoons, for jet streams, let's say. So for these areas, I would suggest that once in a while you should read all these standard books and make jottings out of them. After that, we need not go back to those books. We'll only revise the jottings we have made. So it's that one time we have to put in that extra effort, but next time we are going to revise it from our own notes. And we have to see which areas are most important and most common. Which are the most common areas they are going to be asked, but we should have a more than standard answer in that, more than average answer in that, because fronts is a easy topic. So we cannot expect it to be a basic answer. It is expected we should write really good answer in that. So in those areas, we should have mastery of that, and that will come by reading specific topics from those books.
So,
Then,
Disha ma'am, sorry to interrupt you.
yes,
For our students, so I think what I understood is, and we have also analyzed and we tell this to class also, that the habit of making synopsis
yes,
of every topic, to have a bird eyes view so that you can revise further. And if you, I think if you have done 3 to 4 times revision of that synopsis, then value addition becomes easy. Because to go through those 12, 13 pages again and again, you do not have that mental bandwidth to
yes.
actually, add something to it. Do you agree with this, or what was your strategy?
Yes, yes. I learned this process of synopsis making when I got introduced to Shabir sir. He was the first person who introduced this idea of synopsis to me. Like, we should summarize each and every topic in one page. Because what happens is, at the end of the day, we are reading up. First is, then we are going to revise it back from the book. And then when you have just one day leave in between GS and mains, how will you revise from book? So if we have made those synopses, we can just have a brief idea of one page synopsis of each topic, and we can glance out which are the main keywords. So for that, we need to make synopsis. One, synopsis will help out in revision. Second, if synopses are made, they'll bring a crystal clarity of what we have to fetch from the book and that is what we are going to produce, because a lot is written in book, we cannot reproduce all. So if we make synopsis, we crystal clearly understand these are the points I am going to take into my exam. Then thirdly, with writing and making synopsis, there is written memory also, which is more sustainable, because if we don't write, it's my practice that if we don't write, then we are never able to produce it in the exam, in the mains exam, in the limited time frame when we have to answer 20 odd questions in 3 hours, where completion itself is a challenge. So from that perspective, if we have written it, if we have practiced it, then definitely they come handy. And let me tell you, in my notes making strategy, I have been a strong follower of notes making. I have made notes for GS, for geography and everything. And like in the first instance, I will have notes, let's say, of a topic which is having 2-3 pages. Then when I just read it, for example, France is coming, or I have made notes for climate change, monsoon, and something happens like polar vortex has come or some forest fire has happened in Europe, which is unusual and indicates climate change. So I'll just briefly write and add up one page and staple it that, okay, these are the current additions to the topic. So that we have to do, and ultimately after writing those 4-5 pages on a topic, then I will, in my next revision, I'll ensure that I have written thinker's name, I have written book's name, I have written basic concept, 4-5 things. I have made the diagram, I have made data, I had some figure. So once I just summarize those 5-6 things, then I'll summarize them into 2 pages in my next revision. And then again, while I'm revising for the last time, then also I'll just ensure I'll write 4-5 points that, okay, these are the 4-5 gist points which I'm going to take to my exam. So in that case, one, we remember the major points, and on the last day or in the last week when we have to revise 20 units of geography, so we have to revise, let's say 1 week is left, so how many days we have to revise 3 units per day. So that time these notes really become handy and revision is made possible. And let me tell you, revision, multiple revisions is the key. In this attempt of mine, if I'm able to improve my rank, that is because I have revised every concept, everything in GS and geography 4-5 times. So revision is the key, and revision is not possible with the books. So that's the importance of synopsis and notes making.
And ma'am, since you have stressed about how you used to use it in your GS paper also, this is also a query which we get from the students. We also try to answer them from our end, but we want your view. One is how to manage GS with geography, because we have that view that geography and these four subjects, they are basically more complementary. Apart from that, even in the GS paper of geography, apart from the optional, now you're getting very current oriented questions. Of course, the second part of geography, of course, is becoming dynamic, as you have covered. So students have this thing that ma'am, how to manage current affairs, or from where should we read current affairs along with the core areas, as you have said that if France is a core area, you cannot simply write the bread butter about it, and you cannot expect that you will get extra marks. So you have to go the extra mile. So where should a student go in order to get that extra, what
Yeah.
books, if there are some books or some
Yes. If we talk about GS and geography, then there is huge overlapping between geography and GS. For example, in prelims also we have geography and then environmental questions, biogeography questions. So apart from prelims, in the mains also in GS1 paper, half of the paper is geography. And if we have geography optional, then those questions become really handy. And I really got good marks in GS1 every time just because I had geography optional. So one is in that area, and second, in GS3 also we have around almost environmental questions. 2-3 questions are always there from disaster management and environment, and that also forms a core part in geography. So it really helps out in GS as well. And also many a times environmental ethics question comes, or something pertaining to climate change becoming a reality in essays. So it really helps in enhancing and enriching our essays as well, because many times essays are pertaining to environmental issues, or we can say have some geographical tilt. Even any rural development concept has some geographical aspect or resource aspect or settlement aspect. So if we are able to utilize our geographical knowledge into across the GS papers, essays, then definitely geography optional is complementary. And answer to your second question, that these days current affairs is one of the main areas in geography as well, then that's very true. Not only in paper 2 but also in paper 1, geography optional has become dynamic, and there is lot more focus on current affairs. For example, this time they asked about Essential Commodity Act, and many times they are asking about South China Sea. So in South China Sea, we just cannot write about just the current affairs, but we have to have interlinkages. For example, we have to bring the strategic aspect, the geopolitical aspect of geography, heartland theory of geography, and then we have to bring about the resource richness of South China Sea, and then its locational aspect. So when we are bringing location, when we are bringing theories, when we are bringing resources, then that is what is going to make your answer differentiate from others. So what matters is interlinkage of current affairs, what is happening in South China Sea, plus our geographical concepts into that. And for that, again, we will need note making. We'll need, first we have to read the syllabus, we have to understand it, and secondly we have to integrate the current affairs into our preparation. And I'll deal how I integrated my current affair into my geography preparation separately.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. I mean, I'm getting a lot of questions from the students who are asking you how much marks did you get in option, how to get good marks, especially in the second part and all that. If you want, or you can proceed with the way you have planned.
Yeah. First is I'll cover up the basic strategy I'll cover up, and then we'll take up each of the questions and we can bring out. So I was, yes. I dealt with climatology. For that, for specific topics, I did read Savinder Singh by specific climatology book by Savinder Singh, and then I made my own notes, and then afterwards I just revised those notes. So I would suggest that you have to read, and also in climatology, it is expected if a question is asked, we have to bring the present day status of climate. So for that, we can bring IPCC report, for example. We can bring any of the extreme events which are happening across India, across world. So if we are able to integrate current affairs into climate, then that is what is going to differentiate our answer. So for example, if we have unusual winter rain, or if we have western disturbances being exemplified, or if we have El Nino being coming more frequently, so all these events are indicating climate change. So if a question comes on climate, we have to integrate current affairs definitely into that somehow or other. So that is what is making even geography paper 1 dynamic. Geography paper 1 is no more a static paper, it's also dynamic, and they don't expect the mechanical answers, at least, that we are just reading from the book and just writing them. We have to first restrict to the demand of the question, and second is it has to be a dynamic answer along with the geographical answer. Then if we move towards the third perspective, then that is oceanography. In oceanography 1, I followed again Savinder Singh by oceanography by Savinder Singh, and in that I basically covered basic concepts first, and then second I integrated current affairs. How I integrated is, for example, we started with marine pollution, so we have to have fixed sources. These are the 5-6 sources, they have been given by some of the organizations also. Then we have to bring conventions. Marpol convention is there. Another, marine pollution issues are being handled at world level also and at India level also. So if we have to bring current affairs into our answer, if marine pollution is asked, we can bring out some data, some scheme we are following, some efforts being done at world or India level. So we have to first understand all of the concepts in wholesome approach of oceanography. Then second comes, we have to enrich our answer by adding the current events which are happening at the world and India level. And then thirdly, some conventions. For example, if we are talking about laws, or we are talking about geopolitical conflicts in oceans, these days oceanography question is not just about let's say you tell about Pacific Ocean or Atlantic Ocean. It's not about that. We have to actually integrate it with what is the geopolitics of oceans now. If we are talking about geopolitics, then apart from strategic, economic and environmental issues and locational aspects of oceans, we have to bring in what is happening is about UNCLOS. So we need to bring about UNCLOS definition, or what is being said by UNCLOS laws, or how these laws are being breached many a times. The recent example being South China Sea, how exclusive economic zone is being breached, how air defense identification zones are be. So we have to just talk about those laws of oceans which are being given, but under the reference of UNCLOS. So if we are able to bring about any standard organization into our answer, then that shows that we have read it. It's not that we have just written it by ourselves, we have actually read it and then reproduced it. So that adds credibility and authenticity to your answers. So for that, we need to cover up the basic concepts and integrate those, and you will be able to integrate only when we sit back, we think, okay, this is the syllabus of oceanography, in this topic I have read this, and in current I have read this, then you relate them. For that you have to sit across yourself, you have to take pen and paper, just write down what else I can take out from current affairs. For that it's a self analysis process, you have to be into the depth analysis process. It is not going to be done by somebody else, it has to be done by ourselves. So that is what is consolidation of geography and current affairs and whatever is happening around us. Then coming to biogeography and environmental geography is mainly current, apart from some concepts of environment which are being given by many environmental thinkers. Mainly it's current oriented. So for that I did not specifically focus on something, but I made ensure that I know basic concepts, and after that I focused on whatever environmental issues are happening around us. I just consolidated them from current affairs. And for biogeography, yes, I read about that. For example, there are areas where UPSC has crossed, like they are not asking average question. They are going to ask a difficult question out of that. They will ask some biogeographical realm which we have not read, Notogean realm or Ethiopian realm, whatever they ask. So for that, if we know from the previous year questions that in these areas, UPSC is asking a slightly difficult level question. So for those areas, I used to focus, like I will also read in depth. So in case I had to attempt, I'm not clueless, I'll attempt a basic answer to that. It's not we will be able to produce best of the answers in all the cases. We'll be able to produce basic answers in few of the questions which are difficult questions or which are beyond our control. So for those, just ensure that you cover a basic realms, basic ideas about animal kingdom, plant kingdom, soil. So otherwise, cover the basics and just leave those 1 2 tricky questions after which we run. For example, I used to identify, like in biogeography in soil, so that Russian school is famous. So Russian geographers have contributed. So I used to ensure that whenever I am going to write a question on soil or whenever I am answering biogeography, so I will bring Russian geographers. I'll bring their names. So that's how they give, I guess, half a marks extra maybe. At least they ensure that I am mentioning authentic answers. I'm not mentioning something by my own. So we have to ensure, we have to see it which school of geography is famous in which area. For example, in geomorphology, we have American School of Davis. So we have to bring, we have French School of Pan. So we have to bring that. So that's how by little efforts, we make our answers different and better informed, better read from others. And always geographers will appreciate if we are writing answers from a geography perspective and not a layman answer. So that's about physical geography. And somebody asked me about oceanography. So oceanography, yes, I read about Savinder Singh, specific book by Savinder Singh on oceanography, and then I just merged my current affairs with that process. In oceanography, another question is coming, another example I'm going to bring out. For example, there is a question on coastal geomorphology, that is oceano as well as geomorphology. And also we have current affairs. There are new guidelines coming up, coastal regulation zone. So whatever changes have been made, or how there are efforts being made to control coastal pollution, how we are able to bridge, how we are able to ensure that we don't have more coastal refugees. So from that perspective, after mentioning coastal geomorphology, which is being dealt in geography, you can just make a paragraph about efforts being made in the direction of controlling, or what are the recent amendments, or how coasts are important. So that is what is integrative approach to geography of current affairs and static portion. So here I sum up physical geography part.
Okay. So, ma'am, a lot of questions are coming before you jump to the next section, which is regarding, students are confused. Should we cover 1.5 years of geography in UN down to earth? Is it that important? Because, in prelims this year, there was a question which came from 2016 down to earth. But would you advise that you have to, because already you have to manage GS, geography itself is a very heavy duty subject in itself. So would you what would be your recommendation apart from the newspapers? And we have a Cosmos also, which specifically takes care of. But would you actually agree that you have to read 2 years of Down to Earth, because it does give an edge, but then ROI, how much will be the return?
Yes, actually everything in UPSC is time. Time is a limited resource, and how much we invest and how much is the output, that is going to decide your rank. Because I used to read Kurukshetra and Yojana not cover by cover. I'll just scan out, okay, if I have some any of the good practices of rural development, of water issues, of climate issues, or let's say of any migrant patterns happening. I would just keep my geography syllabus in the hindsight, and then I'll just think whether I should read this article or not. For example, any article has come on smart cities, and yes, we have settlement geography in both of the papers, so that can be asked. So I would just see if there is any catchy diagram, any different idea which is being, because anyways we are covering those in our current affair magazines. So there is no need to replicate it from another place. It's better to revise from where you have read it once. But yes, we can scan some basic magazines like Kurukshetra. I used to scan. Scanning means whatever is important for us, we are going to take that. I'm not going to read it word by word, because then how I will manage my basic core geography and GS and essays and also writing practice. And also I was working as a police officer. So for me, I have prioritized that I should be investing the time where I can have more output. For example, down to earth, I read few articles about refugees and whatever is happening on environmental issues, but then it is not necessary and not recommended also at this level that we should read 2 years of down to earth. Anyways, we are reading newspapers, we are reading magazines, current affairs. Then even Shabir sir's Educemi geography program has Cosmos, which actually compiles all the current geographical issues, environmental issues, biogeography issues in at one place, brings out the best practices, the case studies which we can incorporate. So it's better we go to Cosmos at one point and we just fetch out the best of the things from there, and we need not read 10 magazines or 10 at 10 places. They're already being compiled. So we should search out some shortcuts at places that where we can have actually less time and more output. It's more about efficiency. At one point of time, I was reading geography and U also, but then at later point, I realized that although we read them, but how much we can reproduce in a 12 marks answer, in a 15 marks or 10 marks answer, 20 marks also. Many times they don't even come from those areas. So what we need to do is smart reading is required, and I used to focus where consolidated material is available. I would take it from there, I would incorporate into my notes, and then that would suffice. I won't suggest reading 2 years down to earth, and there is no much time left for mains also. And also GS has to be covered. Geography is huge because we can't focus on, let's say, water issues I have read in detail, but what if question is not asked? And secondly, if it is asked, how much we will be writing? Only 1 point extra, and that's also not sure. And that 1 point can come from our current affair reading also, because that is generally covered by coaching institutes, current affair material. So we need to go for smart reading.
Yes, I think that I would completely agree, because even we do not. We in our classes, Shabir sir also himself, he is totally against going behind booklets and going behind current material. I think prelims has also changed that pattern. I think to deviate the students from that path. Anyways, ma'am, you can continue with your subject-wise analysis. Then we have few questions on answer writing and mapping, which is coming from the students, which we'll take. So
Yes,
you
yes.
can continue with this.
Then coming to the human geography part, this is one of the parts which I believe has actually been my survivor, because this is one area where we can be sure of that these questions will probably be from this area, because in physical geography questions may be haywire, they can be such that we are not able to answer them, they are difficult. But then in human geography there is a assurance that broadly it is from within the syllabus. Those are also from within the syllabus, but that would require more in-depth analysis. So I focused on more on human geography part. In human geography, the approach is slightly different from physical geography. One, in human geography, it's about integrative approach in human geography. In human geography, we are going to deal with, let's say, physical aspect as well as the human aspect. And human aspects assumes more significance in human geography. So I'll start with the first unit, that is geographical thought. So human geography is core geography. It is actually the geography because in geographical thought, how geography as a discipline has evolved, how it has been subjected to different interpretations by different geographers at different points of time. Then for that we require understanding geographical concepts very clearly, because we will be able to answer the demand of the question only when we clearly know how geography has evolved from areal differentiation to QR phase to behavioral to humanistic phase. So for that, a timeline, exactly understanding what the concept is and why different schools evolved to correct the shortcomings of the previous schools. So for that, understanding of the geographical thought is really required. And I would like to extend my thanks to Shabbir sir for geographical thought specifically, because he actually dealt it in a lot of detail, and once understood it, it is always going to fetch you marks, because that shows your real geographical skills. So you can totally follow Shabbir sir for geographical, human geography part. Totally, I didn't read anything except his notes in this, and he has given some specific readings from R.D. Dikshit and Sudeepta Adhikari. So I used to stick to his notes and those readings. I didn't read the whole books. None of the books is being read in wholesome approach. Only the selective readings are just mention the paragraphs, the pages. So just stick to that. Just make synopsis, and yes, synopses are very much required in geographical thought. Else, we will not be able to reproduce it there. So we have to make synopsis. While making synopsis of geographical thought, what we have to ensure is, one, who is the thinker who has given that idea, who has propounded that idea. For example, if we are bringing Blash, we have to, if we are bringing possibilism, we have to bring Blash. If we are bringing neo-determinism, we have to bring Griffith Taylor. So we have to bring thinker's name. Second, if you want to enrich your answer, you necessarily bring their books or their papers which are being presented. Yes, it's difficult, but for 10, 15 odd books, we can revise, and we can memorize. Even if we are not able to produce 15, we can produce 2, 3 names. So that would also be enriching your answers. Then third is timeline is very important in geographical thought, that how it has evolved over time. So these are the keys which are going to enrich your answer, and also the underlying idea, the concept, the essence of geographical thought. It has to be brought in geographical thought answers. And the emphasis which I am laying on geographical thought, it is because of the reason that it not only helps in geographical thought, but this thought has to be used in all the answers of paper 1 and paper 2. Let me give you an example. If we are discussing about, let's say, smart cities. So smart cities also, they act as a systems. So we have to bring the concept of system analysis. So if we are discussing about, let's say, environmental issues, so environmentalism is the offshoot of welfare geography. So we have to bring about welfare geography. We have to bring about environmentalism in geographical thought. If we are able to bring these ideas into our physical geography answers or in our paper 2 answers, so definitely these really help out in enriching our answers. So geographical thought definitely has to be covered. And for example, if monsoon prediction system we are discussing, then we can tell about monsoon prediction is also acting as a system analysis. It's working as a system. So what we have to realize is that we have to cover it not only for answers of geographical thought, but also for answers in other areas as well. So that is one. Then second is population geography. Population geography has its own demand. We have to first understand that population, every unit has its own demand. In population geography, I used to keep in mind there are theories. We have to understand those theories in totality. And then second, apart from those theories, we have to remember those thinkers, those papers they have given, and then another is, for example, in population geography, apart from basic core thinkers and theories, we have to see the data. For data, I used to refer to census 2011 data or other data which is coming. Many times International Organization of Migration will come up with migrants report. So, or even Indian government will come up with migrants report. So we have to have data for demographic geography, for population geography. And then thirdly, how do we integrate our current affairs in geography, in population geographies? For example, national population policy is there, or another population control measures are being taken in India as well as across the world. So how our policies in India, how our policies at the world level are faring up, and what we need to take, where should we look to like stabilizing our population. So we have to integrate current affairs into population geography. That is to be sure, because population is one of the area which is being focused in the government policies as well. What are the schemes being taken to control that? What are the incentives being given? So we have to incorporate, because population geography is in paper 2 also. So one is we will integrate our theories of paper 1 in paper 2, and we'll integrate the current affairs in paper 1. So that has to be, there has to be some interlinkage. For example, we can talk about optimum population concept. So we can bring out that to bring the optimum population, we need to have this policy. So if policy comes in question, we can bring the concept of optimum population. And if optimum population comes, we can bring the concept of population policy. So that way interlinkages has to be done, and current affairs integration is much required in population geography. Then if we go to settlement geography, so for settlement geography, for population geography, I refer to just coaching notes and little bit of addition of current affairs that helped me. Then in the third unit, there is settlement geography. For settlement, I read the basic notes. There are also basic concepts. So apart from reading those theories and thinkers, then we have to see it in current. For example, in settlements, we have a question on urbanization. Then urbanization has to be seen in a broad perspective. Urbanization is not just moving or increasing urban population. We have to see urbanization, let's say urban areas as central places, as the role in functionality. So I brought out the concept of central place theory of Christoller and role of central places in urbanization. Then I can bring urbanization through, like we can see there are not only just the demographic changes but also geographical changes. We have problem of slums, we have other water issues, so we can bring out from that perspective as well. And then if we see urbanization, then how to control urbanization, then comes the concept of Malthusian, the population control policies. Or we can bring about carrying capacity of a particular area, we can bring out optimum population. So it is that in those areas which are very common, like everybody knows about urbanization. So for that, we just cannot give a simplified answer, a laymanish answer. For that, we should have a specific answer, very specific, with good practices which are being followed. Then with other best practices or case studies, or urban cities of India versus world, how they are faring up. So for that, we need to do an analysis of that apart from our basic readings, because in urbanization, if we go by basic books, they are outdated. For that, we need to have current. For example, I quoted definition, or I quoted the problems which are being given by World Bank in one of the reports of urbanization. So that way it helps in enrichment of answers, and I would suggest that we should enrich our answers in these basic areas, because they should be really current oriented. For example, I would make a diagram. I would talk specifically about answer writing, but then I'm bringing out here that we can make a diagram of urbanization in, if we see 1950, then 2011, and then 2040. So this is the rise. So this is expected. And for this rise, we have to address the challenges which we are going to face. So such sort of innovation and creativity, we have to sit back and develop on our own in such areas. Then after settlement geography, we have regional development planning. So regional development planning is the unit which first you identify the theme of the unit, that what are the demands. So I used to write, okay, these are the 4-5 things a particular unit demand, and I'll incorporate in all of the answers these 4-5 things. So if we talk about regional development planning, then the concepts from geographical thought, what we read as regions, physical regions, natural regions, and then we can bring thematic regions, specific regions. So all those concepts of geographical thought, I told you they'll be utilized at every place. So we can bring those concepts and thinkers along with thinkers into our regional development planning one. Second, regional development planning concepts, they are related to grassroots planning. So we can bring out democratic decentralization, we can bring out political geography concepts, we can bring out watershed management concepts. So we have to read and bring out the current concepts in regional development planning. You don't need specific reading in regional development planning. Whatever we have read across the places, we have to integrate in RDP, because every region, for example, we can bring aerial differentiation. Since every area is different, so definitely they will require a specific approach of development. Approach of development of hilly areas will be different from plain areas. So that is again guided by geography. So we have to sit that, okay, this is the topic and these are the points I've already read, and then you just replicate them in your answers, that this concept I can utilize here, this concept I can utilize here. So that's how the process has to be. Then the last unit is models and geography, and models and geography is the most important unit and the most marks fetching unit also, because one, there is standard book which I read on models and geography, that is by Majid Hussain, Models and Theories. So I read it cover, page to page, word to word, because that is where we are going to write answers in a core geographical language. So if we have models, for example, the theme of models which I used to focus on used to be, first, like in models answers, one, again, thinker, their book name and everything has to be incorporated. And then secondly, we will focus on practical applicability after understanding the concept. For example, I have understood von Thunen model. So after reading that whole concept, I'll summarize, and then what I will do is I'll sit and understand what is the applicability of this concept, which was given way back, like let's say 50, 60, 70 years back, 100 years back, and that too in Europe and USA. What's its applicability in present day scenario when a lot has changed? So now these days UPSC is not asking about that write a note on von Thunen. These days they are asking that write on the applicability of von Thunen. So applicability has to be dealt. We cannot write von Thunen in detail and then applicability. So that is going to miss the demand of the question. We have to write about applicability. So initially we'll, in 1-2 lines, I'll bring out the concept. Then I'll bring out directly to the applicability of von Thunen, and applicability at world level, applicability at India level. So for that, every model has to be understood first and then seen that whether it's applicable in India at present or not. A lot like Weber's model. So in that time, transport used to be, transportation cost used to be the main thing, but now it has reduced, logistics have improved. So we have to see that the industrial landscape has changed due to other factors. So apart what Weber has told, lot many more factors have come in. So we have to bring those lot many factors into our answers to make our answers relevant and to make our answers suitable to the dynamic times. And that is what is required in models and geography. Understand the concept in totality and see its relevance and the shortcomings and who has given an improvement over that model. So that is going to be the structure of answer in any of the questions of models. So that sums up the paper 1 strategy and the books and the sources which I followed, and then multiple revisions of the same.
I think, Diksha ma'am, it is, first of all, one thing that I want to put across with students is no one part is important. Because generally what students do is, because they get interest in physical geography, the physical setting and all, they keep on reading it. And that thing that they have, that it will help me in my GS also, it will help me in my prelims also. For example, I see a lot of students, they pick up the models part, this unit at the end. And I think remembering it, forget about, finding the applications in the Indian and the international setting. First of all, remembering the model itself then becomes a struggle for them. So I agree that multiple revisions are a key to that. Now, there is one repeated question which is being raised by the students is, how do you manage answer writing? Like, you have very comprehensively covered how, you have even said that you need to drop some very specific, for example, Norwegian school of thought. So many students are asking, like, do we need to read now every school of thought, or you can simply mention and it will fetch you a better standing? And second question which they are, is what or how exactly is this key to, improve their answer writing? When we talk about enrichment, this is the problem, that they have endless sources. What they do is they pick up a question, they start scribbling down. After one time, they start reading in, and then they are bombarded. Like for a 250 mark, words question, they have more than 1,000, 1,200 words ka content, right? So I think a lot of students would agree. So this is where you have to learn how to manage. How were you doing it?
Okay, yes, answer writing, yes, I am supposed to deal a lot in answer writing because that's the key to score in mains. In mains, the key to score is why I cleared the mains always in all of my attempts was my answer writing practice, because I used to practice a lot and I used to ensure that it's not that I'll just go and write test in one day and my answer writing is done. That's not the case. I used to write 5-6 answers daily, like once my pre is done, so after that on all of the days I used to write 5 6 answers. And what we do is we think that first let us read everything and we'll write in the last 15 20 days. So that is never going to be the case that you will be able to manage the paper. One, paper is very lengthy. To complete, we need to have very fast writing, very fast thinking, spontaneous thinking, and also covering up all the questions in a decent length and at a decent quality level. For that, what we require is regular answer writing, because if I am writing an answer today, let's say I have written an answer on pollution today. So if I am going to read about pollution, maybe in geography, maybe in current affairs section in coming days, so then I will think that okay, I have missed out this point, I could have incorporated this point as well. And then maybe I'm reading somewhere or I'm thinking that yes, this point could also be incorporated. So this thought process that you can at this point, that point, that will only come when you start answer writing. And it will not come if you will keep on reading, because had I not written a question on pollution, why will I think that what else will I write? Because I faced a problem in writing a good content, that my mind will always be searching that what else could I write to make my answer different. So one, practice it daily. I used to practice before prelims as well. Like I practiced like for 2 months before prelims, I stick to prelims. Before that also I used to practice answer writing. I have naturally a lure for writing. I'm passionate about writing. So you can start writing like before prelims as well. You should start writing, because it never comes in 2 3 months. It is a long process. You have to write for 6 7 odd months, and then only will be able to complete the paper. Second, one, we will not be able to write the best answer on day one, because what we think is we will write the best answer, and if we are not writing best or good answer, then we stop writing. So that's not the key. We should start answer writing from day one, and then we can gradually improve upon our answers. Then third point is that once we have written our answer, we should get it evaluated by someone from our friends group or by some mentor, whoever you are having. And we should also reread our answers, that what we have written, not that day, 2 3 days after, because that day you have same frame of mind. 2 3 days, if you read 2 3 days after, if you read the same answer, you will think that I could have added this point also, I could have added another dimension also. So that is the another point. And also in answer writing, just ensure that you are able to diversify your answer, because what happens, we just keep on writing in one dimension at a length, but that is not appreciated in UPSC. They are appreciating diverse answers. If I'm able to bring geographical perspective answer, if I'm able to bring location, I'm able to bring out some economic geography concepts, some human geography, some physical geography, some population, some current affairs. So it has to be really dynamic answer. For that you have to diversify, and diversification will come when you start writing answers. Then in answer writing, you need to have a structure. For the structure, you have to focus on introduction, body, conclusion. Yes, that there has to be a structure in answer writing. Like I used to focus on ensuring that there is some figure, some schematic on every page. Like I can have a map on one page, I can have some data box in another page, or I can bring out some flow chart, some bar graph. So for each and every question, you will have a different set of diagrams, because in geography, diagrams, and more importantly, informative diagrams are important. It's not that okay, we just make some map and some point here. That's not the importance of diagram. A diagram has to showcase something which you want to show by the figure. So focus on diagrams. For that, I made a separate notebook on diagrams. Like in those diagrams means any schematic, any table, any box, any flow chart, any bar graph, any sort of representation, any sort of innovative representation you can make. So you can bring out them from standard books, current affairs, any readings, any specific readings you are doing, any IPCC report you are reading. So you can bring out some diagram from that. For example, I always made it up my mind that if I am going to deal about water crisis, then I will show that how water availability per capita has decreased from 5100 to 1100. So I had this diagram. This is simple diagram, but it is informative diagram. So we have to simplify our diagrams, because in books they are complex, we will not be able to produce them. For that, you need to make simple diagrams into a notebook and practice them, revise them. First make them, and then secondly revise them and practice them multiple times. That will ensure that you are able to replicate those diagrams immediately into exams, else they are never replicated. So that is the key to answer writing. And then I used to join test series. Somebody asked me about test series. I joined Educami for GS, Essay and Geography all test series, and I used to get my answers evaluated and then work upon them. So that's about answer writing. And for answer writing, another important point is that we have to sit back, we have to think that okay, these are the answers I have written. What else I can write? You have to be with yourself. Open up books, and one is we will think what we are going to write while we are reading. Then second, when we write, we will understand that we are only able to produce 40-50% of what we have read, and that too when it comes in time constraints, and that too when it comes in exam under the stress and everything, then that 40-50 gets reduced to 25-30%. So to increase that percentage of reproduction into the exam time, there is a lot of practice, and it only comes with practice. Answer writing key is practice, practice, practice.
I totally agree with you on this. You cannot just achieve it overnight, and there is no specific time, especially for those students who think that they have to start writing answer once the prelims are over. You cannot manage. You absolutely will not be able to manage that. So you have to start early. Now, ma'am, we would like you to share the strategy for paper two as well, and then
Yes.
we can have a comprehensive idea. Along with that, if time and the coherence permits, you can give an idea about the mapping also, because a lot of students find it difficult to achieve good mapping skills. So yeah,
Yes.
that will be, and the questions are also coming on those lines
Yes.
from the students.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. In geography paper 2, it's very different from paper 1. The core geography we have covered in paper 1. So one is we are going to implement the concepts which we have understood in paper 1 into paper 2. There has to have interlinkages. Secondly, for geography paper 2, the source or the standard book apart from my coaching notes, they were Khuller book. That was the only book which I referred, and I took out all the diagrams from that book into my worksheet. I made a folder for that these are the diagrams. Then second, in paper 2, the questions are mainly current based. They are going to ask you about migration in India, what is happening, or they are going to ask you about urbanization problems, the slums problems. So for slums, it's mentioned clearly in the syllabus. Every topic I used to take, read from that Khuller book, that is going to give you a static coverage. Now you have to see, okay, census 2011, what it talks about, how much is the percentage, how which cities are facing it more, which is the case study at world level which has managed it well, or which are the policies and the schemes which we have for slums. For example, we can talk about National Housing Mission or Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and then development of tier 2 tier 3 cities to control the migration in the 4 big metros. So that you have to think beforehand. So in paper 2, reading that static portion will not suffice. You have to have current affairs, and current affairs means you have to have schemes in paper 2, policies of government in paper 2, then diagrams are very much important, maps are very important in paper 2, making maps in paper 2, and then thirdly just bringing out those datas and facts and best practices. So these 4 pillars I used to focus on in paper 2, like in any of the questions. And then for example, if there is a question on, one is contemporary issues in geography paper 2, so that unit is entirely current affairs based. You need not read it from static portion. Else industries, if we have, so if we have industries unit, we have to ensure which model. We have read about Losch, we have read about central place theory, about urban areas, or we have read about Weber. So we have to ensure that we are bringing those concepts of paper 1 in paper 2. Like in agriculture, we will be bringing von Thunen, we will be bringing climate change impact on agriculture, we have agroclimatic policies. Then apart from those static reading of Khuller in agriculture unit, we have to focus on any of the agriculture report which is being brought out by government. Many schemes are being brought. I just jotted down all of the schemes of agriculture and the two features. For example, if it comes about fertilizer, I'll bring about policy on fertilizer, I'll bring about neem coated urea, issues of urea. So we have to think that okay, this is the topic and this is what is happening in current, and then we have to implement it in that. So for agriculture, we can focus. I focused on on a Kurukshetra that came on agricultural issues. So that would give out all the data pertaining to agriculture. Water issues we have Kurukshetra. So then rural development issues are there in paper 2. So for that also we had Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra and Yojana, they comes really handy in paper 2 preparation. And then there is Indian geography, that is okay, that is again conceptual, that is core geography, that Khuller would suffice. But apart from that, if we go to agriculture, industry, and then the settlement patterns, so all these would require, apart from Khuller, we have to supplement with the current affairs section. And current affairs is, you can see some of the cases in geography and U also, but I will not suggest, since it's a very bulky and you are going to read, and I don't know how much output would be there. So better stick to Cosmos, because that brings out all the case studies pertaining to particular topic for geography, and that's really handy. So we need not run after different magazines. Just read Kurukshetra and Yojana, and the Cosmos is one of the good initiative just to help out geography optional students. So like I'll take up with the questions process, because in geography paper 2 what we have to deal is integrate with paper 1 what we have read. Second, read Khuller. Apart from this, focus on current affairs and just make a jotting that these are the 2-3 things. You have to introduce maps, you have to, and map should be, it's not that we have to have small maps, and at times I used to make half map also. If only I have to show North India, so I'll show North India, because the space is also a constraint in paper 2. Then we have to have data, statistics. For example, if a question comes on population geography in paper 2, we need to have data. I made data on TFR, so how much it has decreased at national levels, which are the few states which are at a better level. I suppose MMR was really poor in let's say Bihar and then Assam and UP. So I ensured that I should have some 2-3 examples on each of the indicators, where I will focus that this is the belt, where I'll shade it out in the map, that this is the belt which is facing problem. So just like for same for IMR, then same for population growth. Not every state is having the same population growth rate. So those datas for Indian population dynamics I took out and merged with the Malthusian concept, or I'll introduce demographic transition theory concept. India is in which state? So you have to implement the geographical theories which we have read in paper 1 in paper 2. It was automatic that if a question will come in population in paper 2 in geography and Indian specific, then I'll bring out that we need to switch to optimum population, we need to switch to Malthusian idea and the carrying capacity, and the Northeastern concept that we are in which stage. So such sort of interlinkages you have to sit and do out. So now I hope I should take up questions, I guess.
Yes, I think there are a lot of questions
Yes,
from a
yes.
lot of students. Yes. One question which I can repeatedly see is, how to integrate current. I think you've covered that part very, very well. The map work is one area where students find it, how to ease the map work, and what exactly was your strategy of making notes? Because the thing is, as you have also mentioned, you start writing the answer, you do not get a good answer, you leave writing the answers.
Yes,
So, how to remain motivated, because it's a long journey. UPSC is
yes.
not a month or a 2 month or a 6 month play. It's a
Oh
long
no.
journey.
Yes.
And another question, ma'am, is how did you allocate time? Because parallelly, you have to prepare for your prelims as well. You
Yes.
cannot prepare for your mains post prelims. So it is a parallel process. So how did you differentiate it that I'm going to give so much time to a particular subject, or only for the prelims based studies? This is only for the mains, this is only for the, so time management I think is the key to this exam anyways. So what was your strategy, especially handling both?
Yes, yes. For first is about mapping. Mapping is an important thing. Like it helps in answers. Also, bringing the locational aspect is geography. So in paper 2, the keys you have to make your answer geography. So the idea is bring maps, bring locations, and the locations which are asked. So I map is not something which you will like. You will sit today and you will cover it. I used to see India's map. It used to be on my board. So I used to see it every day. Okay, one day I will see rivers. One day I'll see Himalayan rivers. Another day I'll go for peninsular rivers. We'll see the track. We'll make the jottings. Then another day I'll go for hills. Another day we'll see some tiger reserves. So I used to allocate, like when I'm tired towards the end, then 10-15 minutes, I used to just see and glance at the map, and then used to just make jottings that these are the entries which I have made. And also there's a book available in the market, so that book helps in ensuring that we are able to cover all the locations of maps. So that has to be done on daily basis. Do it for 10-15 minutes. It's relaxing also, and at the same time It's more ingrained if it is done gradually rather than just done at one go. And then after making entries, like in around 10-15 days, I'll sum up everything and then I'll keep on revising my jottings. So I didn't rush in ensuring that I am getting 10 on 10 entries. My idea was I should get those entries which others are getting correct. So that is almost 6-7, and that would suffice. And 7 entries are like more than enough. And for those rest 2-3 entries, nobody can actually answer them, because that's what UPSC is. If you are able to answer 10 on 10, then that's not the case. So just don't rush for all the entries. Just ensure you know basic entries. That's on the this thing. And managing out time and making notes, and time management is one of the keys, because I told you it's a limited resource. And I was working as ACP, and then I have made it this time with a better rank. The only key was my time efficiency and my time management. I did not read any unnecessary stuffs. I ensured that my readings are limited to those which are relevant, which are required, and I ensured I am revising those entries again and again. I'm revising those notes again and again. So multiple revision is the key. Don't read, like if you have covered a topic from one standard book, don't read it from another book, like, because we keep on shifting our sources and then it expands and we are not able to consolidate. And if it's not consolidated, let me tell you, we will not be able to produce it in the exam. So consolidation is one of the keys. And for consolidation, the key is that you revise, read it from one place, make your own notes, and then revise it from that itself, or maybe from that book. That's all. Just don't shift books, don't shift to multiple books per se. So one is limiting the sources to the standard books and the notes. Second, revising multiple times. And 2 months before the prelims, I used to stop my mains preparation, because prelims has also become dicey and demanding. So I used to ensure that at that time I only have prelims mode, and before 2 months I used to ensure that I am writing answers of geography as well and GS. For example, post prelims, I used to ensure that I'll write 3-4 answers of geography and 5-6 answers of GS every day. And then once a week, I'll write one test, one full test of geography and one full test of GS and one essay. So that's how I made out my writing practice, and which every individual has to see according to their capacities. Maybe some may need more writing and some may need more reading. So we have to see that where we are fitting, which blend we are. So where we are able to blend out that we are having reading as well as writing.
So I think a test series could be a good litmus test, because if you're writing your answers on your own, you think this is the best answer, plus you get the rank also of your peers.
Yes, yes.
So that will be a good test. Ma'am, a personal question, especially there are incidences where students are somehow not able to handle the pressure, because this is a very taxing and very demanding exam. So, and since you've been into the services, you come across a lot of such cases. What is your take that how students should remain calm, should remain focused, they should not forget why they came here, especially for the UPSC exam?
Yes, yes, that's a very pertinent question. More so, we have witnessed one suicide just before the prelims, I guess. So the stress management, the key lies, like, I have been into this process for I guess 5-6 odd years now. So it's not a 1 year process. Maybe some people are able to get it in 2 years, some may get in 3, 4, 5, 6 years, or it may take more time also. So one is we should give our best efforts, and ultimately there are lot many combinations that are required to make it a rank. We can call it luck, or we can call it anything, chance or anything. So apart from our efforts, we should not be bothered. We should put our best efforts, and then we should not be bothered about results, because if we have put our best efforts, we have first enriched our knowledge, we have become a better person, more informed, more knowledgeable. So even if we are not getting into UPSC, we'll be getting it at somewhere, either in some state services or some other exam, or we can do anything in life. UPSC is not the end in life. Even many people, they haven't qualified UPSC and still they are successful. They are even more successful. So what we have to think is the broader purpose of life, and should not be stressed out, and how you manage your stress. For example, if I talk about myself, then in 5-6 years, definitely everyone will build up the stress. I too had stress times. It's natural to have stress first, but managing that stress, that is what is required. I used to go for, let's say, running. I used to go for exercises, because then we feel worth, we feel okay. our mind is being in a positive state, happy state. So then we come back to studies. Second, we can go for meditation. Like I used to listen songs also, so we can listen songs. I used to write diary. So whatever stress I had, I used to vent it on diary. So I felt relieved after writing whatever stress I used to feel. We can talk to our teachers, they will give us good motivation. We can talk to our friends, family, and then we can have good circle also. Then we can have motivational videos on YouTube these days. There are many. We can see any inspirational story. So what is that? There are many ways to release the stress. One is that we should be able to manage it well, and secondly we should accept that this exam is demanding exam. Everybody is studying, competition is huge. So maybe if we are not getting it at one point, we'll get it at another point, or maybe next year. So someday or sooner or later we will figure out, we will get the ranks. But the point is, one, we should have patience, we should have enough patience, and we should see them, those who are getting selected, they have also been into this process since long times. So they must also have endured this struggle process to see the light. So for that we should continue with the patience. And also in my service, like I was working also 24 into 7, and then it was a hectic service. My training was also hectic, but then at the back of the mind I always had this idea that that I'll utilize whatever time I get more efficiently, and I'll limit the sources, I'll read more important things. So the point is, we have to go for smart reading along with hard work. So smart work is required, and secondly we have to say where we are faltering. We have to overcome those shortcomings to improve, because it's not that if I am failing today, tomorrow I'll succeed. It's that when I am seeing the reason why I'm failing today, and then I'll rectify my mistake, and then I'll be able to improve my score. And for that, test series are a better way out. Like if we are giving any test series, we can go out and teach and ask our evaluators where we are figuring wrong. So that way we will be able to deal in a better manner. That's how I manage my stress levels, and I hope that you are also able to manage your stress levels.
Right. Thank you so much, Deeksha ma'am. I think you can see the questions if you wish. We have mostly
Yes.
covered all, yeah, all the aspects so far. Uh,
Yeah, they have asked that how to make notes on 1, 2 pages from the different sources. Synopsis. Yes, for that, like for example, if I take up any, okay, I am taking up a question on monsoon. So one is, we have read the basic idea of monsoon. We have written, like we have read from NCRT or any standard notes or any standard book. So write those, that okay, this is about concept of monsoon, and then the southwest, northeast, western disturbance and everything, the roles of jet stream and all those different theories. So write them in pages. And then if you see any other idea from any other book, or if you see any other incident or any other development happening in current affair, just add a stapled page and add it up on that. So that way definitely it becomes hazy to just manage those notes. But then at the end of the day, that's how UPSC preparation is. We have to make static notes and then keep on adding our current editions and then staple it. So this time in my this attempt I made folders. Like for geomorphology, I have one folder. So if there was any addition on geomorphological current affairs front, I will just put it into that. If there is any addition in, let's say, population front, any policies coming up, so I'll put up in population geography folder. So that way I was able to manage the notes. Yes, should we time ourselves when we are starting our answer writing? Initially, you should not time, because initially we take time to build the momentum. Initially, our focus should be we are able to write an answer proper. But then gradually, after writing for 1 month, we should try to reduce it by 2 minutes, 1 minute, because initially many people may be taking 15 odd minutes, and there are only 7, 8 minutes in exam. So gradually, and then in towards the end, we should time it. Like in the last 2 months or post prelims, it has to be a timed process, because if it is not happening in time, then just understand that it's not going to happen, because we'll be missing out 2, 3 questions per paper. And I never left any question, because that's the key. Those who are completing the paper, they're already ahead of you. So post prelims we have to time, and test series helps a lot in timing, because if we are writing in 3 hours, and even if we miss one to answer in first test, then we will ensure that in next test series we are able to ensure that at least we are able to write in time. Time process is required. How much time it takes to complete core geography syllabus? Like Along with the coaching, we should wind it up like around 4 months. It will take 4 months, and then gradually revisions and multiple revision. You have to revise it 4 5 times. So apart from those 4 months, then after prelims we have to revise it again thrice. So for that revision, we have to complete it one revision before and four basic course before. So I guess 5 6 odd months it would take.
And there is a repeated, impossible question that what is the specific number of revisions which are enough? I don't think there's an answer to that.
Before, just before the exam also, like in between the gap of 2 hours also we are revising our notes. So there is no number fixed, but then yes, I think 4 5 revisions are needed to reproduce it there and to get good rank, for example, in the coming uncertain questions, and that for that 4 5, so that those questions which we have revised we are able to write fast and think on those uncertain questions which we haven't, because they will require your time to think and write. What is this? Uh,
Yatish has raised a question on unpredictable questions.
like phreatic eruption and all this. Yes, it came in 2019, I guess, phreatic eruption, and also pseudo volcanism and all those questions. That's what I was telling, that don't bother about these questions because they are beyond our control. They are 1 2 3 questions. So for those running beyond them, it's not sure that then also we will be able to get them after a long chase. So we have to write on the basis of our common understanding. Like this time there was Halloween storm. So like basic understanding, if we have what is phreatic water, obviously we have understood in karst topography when we were reading about underground waters. So just something related to that I used to write in those questions. Nobody is able to write them at par with what other answers we have written. So don't go for those odd 1 2 unpredictable questions. My strategy was that we should focus on good 16 17 questions, and that's how we have to manage. And how I was able to manage it with the job was again the time management. Like I used to study in early morning hours, like 3 4 hours I used to take in early morning, so that time I had a fresh mind and there was absolute peace. So I would ensure then while I was traveling or while I was having lunch or beyond meeting hours. So like apart from my job, I only had my studies. I sacrificed out everything. I didn't go for any of the engagements or anything. So that's how like managing it with the job.
Yes, and there is one more question which I think they say that how to prepare for an interview. I think UPSC preparation prepares you for the interview. What is your take on?
For interview.
For interview? I mean, do you have to start preparing for interview? I think you should
No.
just focus. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess prelims and mains preparation, they really make you enrich with the knowledge stuff. And then interview process, it's all about basic understanding about what is happening around us, and then working on our personality. Yes, it requires speaking skills, it requires certain sort of confidence, but that we can cover like in the post mains time of around 2 3 months, we can shape those things. Like it's more about you as a person rather than just being reading, and it's less about reading and more about improving upon our speaking skills, our personality, how do we engage people. So we can work on that post mains, not an issue.
There is a repeated request about your note. I think.
Yes, yes, if yes, yes, definitely. I'll be happy to share those notes, and I'll also share my jottings of one page. Uh, Not even one page. Like my notes, first they were very bulky, then they were very less. Then again less. Then I had just like thought I have just written books and thinkers and basic things in 2 3 pages. That is for that one day, which is going to come during mains.
All right. So actually, ma'am, this is exactly what we are trying to do here also at Educhemy. So, there's a shift during COVID, and the way
Yes.
we were studying has changed completely with the way we are trying to teach the students now. So, I would like to ask students if you have any more questions with Deeksha ma'am, and then I would like to tell you a little about Educhemy and how we want to approach geography optional.
They are telling, ma'am, you have been in the journey for more than 3 years. What mistake you did in your initial years, which you should not do? Actually, more than 3 years, it's 5 years. Let me confess it honestly. And the initial mistakes were like in my initial, I made it thrice. The only concern was my rank, and the issue was that maybe less of answer writing in the initial attempts, less of knowledge. I was reading more and more, and I was not able to consolidate it. So in this attempt, I read less because of less time I had, I guess. But I consolidated it really well because whatever I was sure that whatever I am reading, I'm going to reproduce this only. I'm not going to write anything else. So I just ensured that this is the consolidation. And second, I focus this time more on like writing test papers. I have written many answers this time and getting them evaluated at EduChemie. So that evaluation helped. And also I missed out on one. The Shabir sir and also in MSP program, they share model answers. So those model answers are really handy. Like very honest confession, I revise those model answers 2-3 times, and believe me, whatever we revise and think, that is only is being reproduced in the exam. So if model answer, they will have good case studies, they will have good data, they will have good representation. So I used to take out those diagrams from them and then just going to copy paste into my notes and then going to reproduce in the exam. So one is that model answers also helped a lot in this attempt. And another is effectively managing the time is one of the keys, because syllabus is really open-ended. So for that, we have to ensure that we are able to manage our time well. And revisions, multiple revisions will rectify your mistakes.
And ma'am, I have one more thing. So students, they generally run away from answer writing because one, they do not have the consolidated content in their head. So do you think it is advisable that initially you can also start with your open books? You just need to
Yes.
know how to write the answer, and then with the time you can develop.
Yes, yes. Initially, I also like used to ensure, because one, first we should have it ingrained in us, then only we will be writing. So first is we can have open books answers also, and then afterwards, like for example, I've written an answer on areal differentiation. First, I will write from the book that Hartshorne and the perspectives of geography in his book, he has dealt so and so, improved upon this and that, and what is improvement upon areal differentiation. Then I'll bring quantitative revolution. So firstly, while reading and making your notes, then at that time only I used to think that this is going to be the structure of an answer on this. So that is almost making notes and or writing answers. And then just close up the book, take up any, yes, another point is take up previous year questions. So those 5-6 year previous year questions, they will bring the idea that which area they are covering, what is the expectation. So then you can write answers to previous year questions. And this time I did for this GS as well as geography, focus on previous year question. Nothing is a better guide than that, and write answers to them. Yes, yes. Themes are same. It is that the demand of the question is being rephrased. So we have to, and one more other idea is we have to focus on demand of the question. If we are writing it anything, if the question is asked on relevance of Weber and we are writing about Weber theory, that doesn't make any sense. We have to briefly introduce and then stick to the demand, relevance of Weber. So it has to be like to the point answer. Previous year questions you can get. There is this book by Vishal publication, I guess, or I don't know. There is this black color book. They are having questions. Somebody has asked, we can use paragraph and points. Yes, we can use. We should use, like we should have diversified answers, differently structured answers. At one point of time, I was making paragraphs, less of paragraphs, more of points, because paragraphical is in those areas where we are telling stories. We don't have stories in geography as such. So it's more about points, some diagrams, some map here, some schematic here, some bar graph. So more of pointers.
Word limit, the time, and the space, these three constraints, I think that is where the model answers, which
Really
we
comes
also
in.
try to provide, yeah, they come handy. It is basically to teach you the art of
And they're
using that
asking
limiting.
at any platform where we practice answer writing. So for that, you have to join test series, join any test series where you get model answers also. You can join EduChemie also. That's a very honest advice, that it's not that I'm appearing on EduChemie. That's why I'm saying that. It's because I have joined it, and the questions used to be discussed at EduChemie. Secondly, model answers were supplied, and thirdly, we can get our scripts corrected. So basically, we can have multiple purposes being solved. And also for geography, Shabir sir is one point solution, and he has been my mentor all through my preparation, in all my thicks and thins. So for that, I would advise that you can actually rely blindly here.
Thank you so much, Disha ma'am. That was very encouraging. We got to know very in depth about geography. And one thing which I would back every student and tell every student: do not treat geography like your GS geography. You have to go in depth. You have
Yes.
to sweat it out. You have to read the books, the
Yes.
genuine sources. Yes, just by reading your basic NCRTs and basic books and going with the newspaper will not help. Will not.
Standard books, apart from coaching, standard books for every topic,
Yes,
they are required.
standard books and revise a lot of, keep an open book, write answers, make mistakes, get them corrected, but you simply cannot write generic answers when it comes to
No,
geography.
no, no generic answers, specific
No
answers, and
generic.
it's a long process. We should not think that let me read this topic superficially because it's so long a process. It's better to read it in detail, add depth analysis, and make a good answer. Like live with it with whole of your passion, devote everything into it, so that then only your real energy will come, creativity will come. For example, I used to be so passionate about writing that I used to think, how can I make it better? How can I introduce any sort of diagram? How can I make it little bit different if it appears to an examiner? So for that you need to really get into the process. So just get into that process and just don't prepare superficially, prepare it with every inch of your soul. Like that's the message I would like to give out.
All right. So thank you so much, Deeksha ma'am.
Yes, yes, it was
That was
wonderful.
really great. I think the students also got a very, very good idea. So this is exactly what I would also like to tell our students, that what we are offering here at Educami. Um, see, give me just 1 minute. So, Educami, as you know, we are in EdTech, uh, and we are the first non-STEM focused. When I talk about non-STEM, it is not just focusing on the science and the tech related, areas. We are a non-STEM focused EdTech startup, and the difference, how we are different from the other traditional coaching and the current online platforms, is that we have, eliminated the shortcomings from both. For example, in the traditional coaching, there was a paucity of how much content we can provide. So you can have multiple, classes on your desktop, and according to your availability, you can go. The problem that used to be with the online teaching was that there was limited access to the teachers, which we have tried to remove. So we have tried to provide you real time access to your teachers. We have created groups, Telegram groups, in which even the teachers are part of. You can directly ask questions. Then on our LMS, also on our dashboard, also we try to provide you different resources, and we try to create that kind of environment for you. And as if you are a student of Educami, you know that for every batch we have a separate group. So we have not created a single group and सब जगह एक ही तरह की कहानी चल रही है. Now what is the what is our USP, or what we are trying to achieve is, we are trying to go beyond the traditional coaching model. So there is this coaching thing that, there's a class, then after the class you have to go, you have to chase the teacher. We have tried to remove that. We are also trying to get away from the basic online. We try to make it more interactive. As you've seen, you were there. Deeksha ma'am was, giving her own lecture, then taking up your answers, and then we were having a discussion. That is what we want to cultivate also. This exam is very demanding, and simply by doing the classes, I don't think it will be very sufficient. So we try to create that interactiveness, and also we try to understand the sensitivity of this exam, and we try to give you that curated content. For example, as she has said about the Cosmos or the Gazette that we produce, so the Gazette is actually that 8 paper magazine which has sources from everything that the current affairs can offer of that particular day. We provide that to you on a daily basis. So, very curated. And as you've seen from the Disha ma'am's, presentation also, in this exam, it is not just the hard work and the coverage, it is how smartly you pick up your sources and how well you practice them. So that is also our aim here. And ultimately, these are the advantages. You get the live classes, your conceptual understanding is our priority. There is a balanced pedagogy between prelims and mains. So for all those who are asking that whether should we prepare for prelims or mains, there is no separate deadline that prelim should be started today and the mains. It is, it goes hand in hand for interview, your preparation for interview starts the moment you start preparing for UPSC. You do not realize that, but that is how your preparation actually starts. We provide daily current affairs, we give you tests, we give you assessment. And when we give you a mains answer assessment, it is not just flooding you with the information. We actually give you a handwritten answer to show you how you can manage all the content in the paucity of time, word limit, all of that. We also provide you recorded classes with unlimited viewing. So in case you have missed a class, you can go through the class again, and there is a different dedicated current affairs class. So this is what we are offering. We are trying to change the norms with the online education, and I hope it helps. So Deeksha ma'am, thank you so much. If you want, you can conclude your session. And since you have been part of EduChemy, who better to tell about this?
Yes, yes. Karuna ma'am has totally like dealt in detail about the EduCammy, what is offering. And otherwise also, yes, essays also Shabir sir really deal it in detail, and I really got good score in essay all the times, and my rank has been because of essays. It is because of the strategy, actually the new innovations, because UPSC is changing now, so it is becoming more dynamic. So you have to also update your answers, update your essays and everything in GS also, from being mechanical to being more dynamic. So for that you require guidance, you require mentorship, and that is quite good at EduCammy. And secondly, also the model answers, the Cosmos or the Gazette, which is being given daily on daily basis, it is becoming really handy because that's consolidated. So your work is being reduced from being multiple times by EduCammy. So just focus on those Cosmos or those things, because there is consolidated availability of material. So you, that will enhance your efficiency, will increase your marks, and will bring less input. So that is how smart reading is. And yes, EduCammy has actually helped me in reaching out to where I am, and I'm grateful to Shabir sir for that. So my sincere regards to sir, and it was a wonderful webinar talking out to you, taking questions to you, and also listening as well as answering from both the sides. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Deeksha ma'am. Thank you, all the students. I hope we were able to cater to your demands and your questions. We'll be coming up with more such discussions on different topics and different areas of UPSC. Till then, if you have any issues, if you have any queries, or if you want to ask out or reach out to us, you know where to find us on Telegram, on Facebook, as well as on YouTube. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time.
Thanks a lot.